everyone. Okay.
Got it. We're good? Okay. Well, good morning, all. Can I get a motion to reconvene in open session? Tony and Sandy, all those in favor? Okay, we're now reconvened in open session. Just as we begin, we acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Neutral people. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements, and their contributions to our community. We offer this acknowledgement as an act of reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples of Canada. Any declarations of pecuniary interest from the board? Seeing none. Any closed session recommendations? I don't think there were any, Megan. None today. Consent agenda. We have 7.1 through 7.6. Does anyone have any items that they would like to have removed and put into the regular portion of the agenda? Seeing none. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda? Doug and Karen Quigley Hobbs. All those in favor? Opposed? There is none. So that's moved or carried. Business arising from the minutes. There is none. Correspondence. There is none. Police services reports. There is none. So we move on to Chief of Police reports. 11.1, race-based data collection strategy with Dr. Hassan Siddiqui and Geraldine Stafford. I don't know, Chief, if you want to introduce that, or we just get started with.
Good morning. Thanks very much, Chair McLean, members of the board. Yeah, we have a streamlined agenda today just for expediency and time. So very happy to welcome Dr. Hassan Siddiqui, supported by Geraldine Stafford, just to walk us through an overview of the race-based data collection strategy in year 2. So over to you, Hassan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. Good morning, members of the board. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present today. Hopefully, can you hear me this time? Can you hear me okay? All right. Okay. So I said how that part worked. And hopefully you can all see my screen. Awesome. Thanks so much again. I really look forward to chatting about some of the work that we've done as part of the race-based data collection strategy over the past year. So let's get this started. So when we talk about the goals of the race-based data collection strategy, the ultimate goal of the strategy is to identify and address systemic racism wherever we find it within the data. Race-based data is one tool that can help support this, and we believe that it helps support this kind of in 4 main ways. And that's by helping us understand the scope of racial disparities within selected interactions, helping us understand the contributing contextual factors within WRPS, helping us evaluate training needs and service delivery, and helping guide community engagement. So ultimately, these are 4 goals that contribute to that one larger goal. And while we've made significant progress towards each of these, most of these goals represent those that kind of require perpetual and continuous evaluation. As such, I'm going to instead go over 4 processes that were presented at last year's update that were identified as necessary to help us achieve these goals. We're going to discuss the progress with respect to those processes. So the first process was to engage WRPS members on the purpose of race-based data. And we did this over the last year by introducing race-based data as part of our academic in-service training, which we deliver every week. The goal of this training was to provide the legislative background to the race-based data collection strategy, explain the why of race-based data collection, and help explain data nuances like the differences between perceived and self-identified race. We also discussed things like how we share the results of the data, among other things. And ultimately, the goal of this in-service training was to get everyone on the same page to help dispel any potential misconceptions people had about the strategy and really drive home the importance of the work being done as part of this strategy. The next process, which is related, was to engage WRPS members on data collection. Ultimately, it is our frontline officers who provide the data that becomes like the crux of this strategy. And so in a large way, they are the most important members of the strategy. So this was also part of the academic in-service training where we went over things like how to provide the data and the importance of providing the data accurately. And as a measure of sort of the effectiveness of our training, we've seen that within the last year, a significant drop in the missing data rates from over 15% to now less than 5%. So that's a threefold drop in terms of missing data, which is hugely encouraging. Our third process was to assess compliance with respect to the quality assurance principle of the data standards. So the Ontario Data Standards guides much of the work that we do within this strategy. And the quality assurance principle is specifically focused on ensuring that the data is high quality and accurate. So to support this, members of our strategy have conducted data audits to assess and improve quality wherever we see any issues. Additionally, we have made changes to forms to make them more user-friendly, to ensure that it's easier for officers to be able to provide data when they are out on patrol. And our last process was focused on making improvements to systems for collection, analysis, and reporting of race-based data. These improvements have taken the form in many ways, but they include the shift to a multiple benchmark analytic framework, which I'm sure the members of the board have heard more than enough about, given that we present it at all of our police service board meetings whenever we discuss race-based data. Additionally, WRPS has really emerged as leaders within the province in terms of taking a human rights framework to intelligence gathering. And that kind of reflects some of the work we've done internally, but we've also done a lot of work, and members of the strategy have been really leaders in the discussion on race-based data outside of WRPS also. So this has included things like supporting the development of the modernized use of force report, which is used throughout Ontario. Additionally, we've had members be part of zone leadership at the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, as well as being members of the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police Special Committee on Race and Identity-Based Data. And if there's one thing we can all agree on, as someone who's part of an acronym race-based data collection strategy, the Chiefs of Police acronyms are really long. I tripped over them in practice every single time. So that reflects those four main processes that we had and the progress that we made related to those. The next main update we want to talk about is community engagement. So last year, when we presented about the strategy, we talked about our aim to hold community engagement sessions. And we're really excited to announce that our first engagement session is scheduled for next month in January. Community engagement is an essential part of the race-based data collection strategy. By engaging with community, we can better contextualize the trends that we do see in our data and come up with solutions that reflect people's lived experiences. The work on our community engagement plan has been supported by our academic partners, Drs. Les Jacobs and Dr. Lauren Foster, who have helped support similar strategies in other police services. So in the next little slide, to support the community engagement strategy, we'll be adding a website, a page to the WRPS external website for people to help sign up for events, learn more about the strategy. It's not going to look exactly like this, but these mock-ups were made by hand by Geraldine Stafford, and I think they're incredible. So I was like, I have to include them in the presentation. So they're not going to look exactly like this, but hopefully you can see some of the content that will be included within the website, including things like member bios for our academic partners. So with respect to the community engagement plan, we have 3 types of sessions planned. The first session will be an information session to get people in the community familiar with the race-based data collection strategy and the work that we've done so far. This is similar to how we've engaged WRPS members as the first step when working internally. The next set of engagement sessions will involve community consultations, and this will involve meetings with specific racialized communities where they can have the opportunity to provide more feedback, ask questions, and have more of an open dialogue. And lastly, we'll be hosting regular town halls for updates. This is meant to ensure that the positive impact of community engagement doesn't just end when the sessions end, but they'll continue perpetually. And when we talk about sustaining positive impact, that will be supported by the Community Action Panel. And I've been told to remind everyone that this is a working name, even though I think it's a pretty good name. So the Community Action Panel reflects a group of community members who are familiar with the race-based data collection strategy, who meet regularly to discuss the needs of the community and their insights with respect to the community. And the idea is that they will be in regular contact with members of the strategy at WRPS. The establishment of a community action panel is in line with best practices observed in other police services. And the plan moving forward is that WRPS will help in selection of the first panel, who will establish the terms of reference for future more community elected panels to operate. So I wrote in my note to apologize for going long, because I feel like I always go long at these presentations. But thank you so much for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. Thank you again.
Well, thank you for that. Interesting. Questions from the board? I don't see any hands. Just a couple. The community consultation. Oh, sorry. Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair McLean, and I hope I'm not preempting your question, but just I know that I've been to community meetings on this topic before, so I think it's really important to put the stake in the ground to say that this is a continuation in building on things that have happened previously. And I don't know if Geraldine Stafford wants to comment, but I know I've been in attendance with some meetings where I think there's been really authentic, valuable feedback to date already.
Yes, thank you. Absolutely. You know, you're absolutely right in naming it a continuation. You know, because all of that we've learned in these community consultations have informed us and has also informed the timing of this. Like, we believe the timing is right. And one of the things we sort of want to do is in this January session is to double back on the terminology, double back on the impetus of why we're doing this. You know, it's a rich and meaty topic, so we want to make sure going forward that, you know, we're kind of doing a litmus test of the community to ensure we're all on the same page before we move forward.
Thank you. Anything further, Karen? No, good. Tony.
Through you, Chair McLean. I appreciate the presentation. One quick question is feedback and updates back to the board. How do you foresee those updates coming? Is it going to be quarterly or at certain junctures along your timeline between the information sessions and the consultations, etc.? Just wondering.
So at present, we do have the quarterly reports that Hassan presents, so that will definitely be one mechanism. But as we collect the data as well, we still yet have to figure out the cadence. But definitely part of this strategy will be data collection, and you know, we'll certainly double back on how and the cadence. Okay, no, I appreciate it. I was just wondering if there was something more than just the quarterly reports that came forward, but okay, appreciate
it. Don't see any other hands. Just to follow up on Chair Redmond's question, the community consultation, will they, and I'm not sure I've been to them before, but we just had the strategic plan consultation. Is it that sort of organic, getting different groups in the room and having more of that sort of facilitated discussion like we did with the strategic plan? And are we specifically asking, like we did in the strategic plan, asking for meetings of certain associations or groups? So I just want to get a sense of how that comes off the page.
Mm-hmm. So as Hassan demonstrated with one of his slides, I look at it like 3 different tiers of information sharing and feedback sessions. So the first one will be bringing in academics. We actually plan to bring in the Anti-Racism Directorate as well. So again, bringing in some of that legislative impetus and why we're doing this. That will be the first session. And we're actually formatting more like a conference. And so the invitations will be put out there to community and to leaders within the community as well, and bringing in our academic partners and the legislative bodies to really support and inform that session. And then going forward, the plan is to bring in specific community groups to talk specifically about the data itself. And we formatted it a couple of ways. So first way is bringing in the groups identified through the Anti-Racism Directorate, specifically those groups that are perceived race groups. And then we're also going to do specific community focus group. So targeting certain communities where maybe people are not able to leave their community. So coming right into community.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more question, but I should have said at the beginning of this open session, today's a very exciting day for the three members of Regional Council today. And I know Doug's already had to leave because it is Regional Council Budget Day. So Councillor Craig's already dropped off, and I think Karen and Sandy have some traveling to do because they have to get to council as well. So if you drop off, that's why. I should have said that at the beginning. One last question I had, and I'm not sure if it's Hassan or Geraldine or Chief. You talked about being leaders in the province. Maybe I'd like to understand, because I think we are leaders in some of these things, but maybe put some context around how we demonstrate that we are, that we're looked to for having provided leadership amongst other services and across Canada. I mean, I think sometimes we should tout some of the fact that we pride ourselves in taking some leadership, and especially these important issues. So I don't know who wants to take that. Maybe Chief, you can start, and kind of whether Hassan or Geraldine, whoever.
Sure. I'll start, and then just a quick pitch to Geraldine. So we're represented at the Canadian Association of Chiefs and the Ontario Association of Chiefs at our leadership level, but also on the equity working groups. And I would describe this as a movement across Canada to align practices to ensure we have consistency, so that any jurisdiction is not moving ahead with things that won't allow us with a profound analysis and understanding about how this is impacting communities across the country, across the province. And then apart from that, we're also trying to just find the common language that's used in the systems that we use. So when you think about like the applications of our records management systems, how we input the data, how it's analyzed, it's all an effort to bring consistency. So WRPS has proudly been represented at that table, and will continue to work with academic partners to drive the practices. So Geraldine, is there anything more? And maybe you can just highlight your role on the.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, absolutely. So specifically, myself, I'm on the OACP EDI Executive Committee. So that, there's about 12, 15 of us who take the leadership role of police services across Ontario. And these sort of strategies are the forefront where we discuss and lead and put out best practices. I'm also the corporate communications network, so where the media officers and public information officers are trained in EDI. So these sort of principles, are trained on at their, I believe it's a quarterly training. So all new media officers are onboarded and have the EDI component with myself. So, to have myself, have a seat at the table and specifically training all of the officers across Ontario in media is quite important. And also to the Zone 5 race and intelligent based data lead. So Mandy and I are the co-leads for Zone 5. So we, the model that has been developed by the Ontario body is basically train the trainer. So there is a group of individuals and different services who have taken the lead, and Mandy's part of that. And then as Zone 5 leads, we then disseminate the data to the Zone 5 services. Great.
Well, unsurprising, WRPS leads again. Karen Quigley-Hobbs.
Yes, just want to thank you for the report. It's exciting to see this next stage come to fruition. That will really give us an idea of the so what of all of this critical data collection that's been done. So really looking forward to future reports.
Good. Any other further questions? If not, we'll move on. Thank you for that. 11.2, the 2023 community safety and well-being, gender-based violence report. I think we have Inspector Aaron Matthias joining us. I don't know, Chief, if you want to set this up, or one of the deputies.
Thanks very much, Chair McLean. So very happy to continue to provide regular updates on our commitment to the Regional Waterloo's Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan. So Inspector Matthias is leading our total commitment and coordination, representing our commitment across the service. So I'll turn over to Aaron to provide us with this monthly update.
Well, good morning, Chair, and thank you, Chief. I'll share my screen. I trust that that's working. I'm grateful for the opportunity to be with you this morning to discuss the ongoing work of the Waterloo Regional Police Service in the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan, and specifically today around the important work being done by our Special Victims Unit and Human Trafficking Team to address gender-based violence in Waterloo Region, and how we're proactively engaging with our upstream partners. So as we typically do, I'll frame the conversation in the concept of community safety and well-being, gender-based violence, along with intimate partner violence, and missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls have been designated as a priority under the region's Community and Safety Wellbeing Plan. The police service has established a victim-centered and multi-sector approach to gender-based violence. However, we know that there's much work to do in order to guide those who may be at increased risk of gender-based violence into upstream resources at levels of risk intervention, prevention, and social development. Looking at who we're serving, nationally, gender-based violence disproportionately affects women and girls, and to a greater degree, those from an Indigenous background. Locally, the data analyzed between January 1st and October 31st, 2023, for persons involved in sexual offense investigations, and that includes all 904 call type subcodes, demonstrated that females comprised 94% of all persons classified as victims of crime against the person. The average age of females classified as victims was 33, and the ages range between 13 and 95 years. Additionally, females made up 82% of all complainants for these incidents. Anecdotally, I can advise that the majority of victims encountered by our human trafficking team are females ranging in age from 15 to 30. And we can see the call distribution of those 904 call types across the 3 divisions on the bottom of that slide. Looking at some investigative outcomes, year to date, our human trafficking team has identified 148 occurrences with the indicia of human trafficking and have laid 29 criminal charges. The most commonly laid are human trafficking and material benefit for sexual services. As of November 15th of this year, Special Victims Unit has laid 356 criminal code charges, and the top 3 are listed here: sexual assault, and sexual interference. Looking at some preventative measures in collaboration with our community partners, the service has taken proactive steps to educate ourselves, as well as groups who may be at risk of experiencing gender-based violence. In March 2023, the service launched a Healthy Relationships campaign, which was a series of 5 videos geared towards high school and post-secondary school youth, providing critical information around a number of issues: coercive control, intimate partner violence, consent, grooming for human trafficking, amongst others. We have our external sexual assault investigative review, which creates a collaborative environment with several multi-sector partners, allowing for knowledge transfer and the education of our own members while developing best practice through these investigations. And our human trafficking team conducts ongoing community outreach, presenting to at-risk groups in school boards, group homes, and post-secondary institutions. And maybe a stat for correlation, but not causation, as of November 15th of this year, when compared to a previous 4-year year-to-date average, the service has realized a 9.7% reduction in sexual assault level 1 calls, and a year-to-date reduction of 2% to total reported sexual assault investigations. So that's remained static. Looking at victim supports, a recently improved victim services grant in our collaboration with Victim Services of Waterloo Region provides an embedded advocate who will serve as the primary point of contact for all human trafficking victim supports, while building relationships with our community service agencies. This position is also responsible for attending on-scene crisis calls and completing initial intake with victims, case management for human trafficking victims and involved family members, and providing human trafficking supports and referrals while maintaining records. The police service is committed to ensuring investigative excellence and support for survivors of sexual assault. The service provides a safe, secure, and private place for survivors to report sexual assaults that encourage trust and empathy. And we work collaboratively with a variety of advocate agencies throughout the investigative process in order to support those survivors. The goal is to wrap survivors in community care while also educating the public on sexual violence in our region and focusing on methods of prevention. Lastly, our alignment with the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan. This plan brings an important focal point to this pervasive issue. The service finds alignments into the plan through our trauma-informed approach, wraparound community supports, and innovative methods of intervening to prevent ongoing victimization. A total community effort is required to ensure that we're reducing incidents and reducing the number of victims and supporting a safe and well Waterloo region. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the report, and I'll open it up to the board. Any questions or comments? Karen Quigley-Hobbs.
Hi. So thank you for the report. I especially want to highlight the healthy relationship component that you reviewed. I think that's a critical piece of the work. And just a quick question, in terms of the video campaign, what was the strategy for dissemination in the secondary and post-secondary areas?
So I'll jump in here. So this is working in coordination across those agencies. So I don't have the specifics in terms of how that was actually laid out, but I would say it was a true partnership opportunity. There was a grant provision that allowed us to develop the material, and so it was probably a multi media format where it was provided across social media, internet, but also a print campaign as well for posters and that sort of material, to my recollection. So that's an ongoing commitment. You can see the work here today does have a police focus for the investigation that come to us, but so much of this work is hopefully veering towards the collaborative and preventative space where we're working with community partners. So we'll continue to seek those opportunities. We know we want to even hopefully dive deeper into the sphere of education. Post-secondary is a great environment where a lot of these issues do come to bear, but within the high school level and even earlier in life, this conversation about gender-based violence needs to start as early as possible. So it will require us to work very collaboratively with many different agencies and sectors to ensure that this educational awareness piece is getting into families, into homes, into those conversations earlier in life.
Thank you, Chief.
Sandy Schatz.
Thanks, Chair McLean. At Township Council, we had a presentation from a group that helps women move, and their comment was that intimate partner violence in this area is the highest in the province. Is that a fair statement? And if it is, do you have any insights into why that is? I think that this is really important work, and I'm glad we're doing it, but it kind of speaks to the pervasiveness.
So I'll maybe take the first part of this component. I don't want to challenge any information that's been provided by another agency. I think the board is familiar with sometimes some counterintuitive statistics that arise. So when it comes to this type of work, sexual violence, intimate partner violence, gender-based violence, it's our best understanding is the more robust network of community collaborative support there is will actually drive up reporting. it's commonly known within these industries, those that are working with victims, that there's a significant number, sometimes reported upwards of 90% of incidents that don't come to police, and they don't make it into the Statistics Canada analysis annually. So we hope that as we continue to build our total capacity as a society, as a region, that the reporting will continue to come to agencies such as police, but also outside of those who are seeking support and wraparound, programming that can assist them in many ways. So I'd have to probably dive into that specific claim about Waterloo Region standing out amongst other jurisdictions across Ontario or Canada. But we do know that because of our total commitment over the past couple decades to the community collaboratives, the Family Violence Project, and other initiatives mirroring that, we have an increased level of reporting because we have supports available. What we do know for sure is that as this region continues to grow and also diversify, this is where we're going to need to ensure our efforts are profound, and that they're reaching members of the community that may be new to Canada, that any barriers of reporting are alleviated and lessened, because with the high rate of victimization has incredible impacts on individuals and families. So we might be able to provide a follow-up to the board on that specific claim and statistical analysis.
Thank you for that clarity. I was wondering if that was probably what was going on, and I hope that that's what was going on. So we do have to be careful of how we use the stats. Thanks.
Okay, Sandy, that's okay. Tony, go ahead.
Through you, Chair Redmond. Appreciate the report. My question is, maybe it starts with a bit of a comment. I presume if we go back far enough, a lot of the reporting of gender-based violence did not come forward due to the uneasiness that probably women and others had felt coming forward. I guess through the good work that you're doing, as well as some of the organizational partners, people are feeling a little bit more open and able to come forward. Do you have a sense of how much, like, this is all reported, how much of that unreported gender-based violence still exists? Is that diminishing? Is it still quite substantial? Any sense of that through your own interactions, or some of the partnerships and information you may have through some of your partners? Just any thoughts on that? It's just more of a broad question.
I'll start, but if any of the deputies or Inspector Mathias can improve my response, I welcome that. I know that, having been immersed in this work, several years back, it was sort of commonly known that we believe only 10 to 20% of reports of intimate partner gender-based violence do come to police, and that's the importance of us working so closely with community partners, such as the Sexual Assault Support Center, the Sexual Assault Domestic Violence Treatment Center, and so those represent community groups, hospital-based groups, and other like-minded community organizations that will provide different levels of victim support. And so that's sort of the common wisdom statistically, but I don't know if Deputy Davis or Inspector Mathias have any updated statistics to complement that.
Can just maybe add one piece of that. I think that's a really good response, actually, Chief, to that. But we're seeing that through our early intervention program now, as we're engaging with people who are maybe it's a first or second time where there's been something reported. We can start to recognize patterns of maybe previous behavior that they didn't recognize was actually gender-based violence or intimate partner violence. So we may be able to have a better idea of that as we kind of expand our early intervention program. But otherwise, how the chief responded is pretty accurate. We do know that a great percentage of it isn't reported to us already still.
So through this success of these types of programs and these initiatives, we hope to see more people coming forward, which will drive up the numbers. Unfortunately, I'm not saying that's a good thing. It'll drive up the numbers, become more transparent, and then hopefully our hope is, as a society, see that tailing off But we should expect that as we have more success in these types of initiatives, the numbers should start going up because people are more open to coming forward with reporting. It's a great clarification. About, and I'm not wishing numbers go up higher than what they are. That's not my by no means what I'm intending. So thanks for that clarification.
I don't see any other hands. I guess just following up on that, and it maybe relates more to the community safety and well-being plan. It's a priority for us, and it's in the budget. There's more focus and more resources in it. And I guess as we continue in the journey of the importance of not everything's policing, but what is the role of the policing, and then as we talk about upstream, what are the other organizations that require more support? Because you've already talked about partners from the sexual assault victims services, etc. There's a whole bunch in there. There's other organizations, and we talked about, as an example, the Immigration Partnership of Waterloo Region. They're dealing with newcomers, etc. The school boards, community associations. I guess maybe it's more for the chief as we think about, and I think we've got at the point that there's going to be rising numbers because we're just getting more of the cases reporting. The underlying part here is there probably will be some pressure to put more resources in the policing part of the equation. Maybe talk about that community safety and well-being plan and what we should anticipate, because part of our role has to be, who else do we partner with that needs to be, that they have to have the resources so we can actually make this a collaborative and a partnership oriented community response.
So I'll have a brief start, and then I'll turn it over to Inspector Mathias to give us a focal point of where, say, that he believes this specific priority is going. But our ultimate goal is to actually reduce police intervention, police requirements to intervene in all of these areas. But Inspector Mathias is leading us on the next steps and will be part of a presentation at Regional Council this upcoming Friday. So Aaron, maybe just give us a sense of how the action tables are starting to form and how the accountability metrics are starting to take shape.
Yeah, thank you, Chief. And yeah, much of this is still in development, and this is something I think that will be echoed on Friday. But as we get into this work, we're really seeing an opportunity to improve or develop ways of evaluation and identify gaps in where we can collect more information in order to address some of these root causes. So as we're bringing other partners and multi-sector partners around the tables, and these action tables really are based on that multi-sector approach. So building those partnerships out, we're identifying which agency is most appropriate for which role, and we'll identify collective outcomes from that. It really is layered work. We're using currently for gender-based violence and intimate partner violence, compiling information from the various commissions, inquests that have been done provincially, locally, and nationally, just to inform our work and to provide justification for the actions that we're taking. So I hope that provides some answer. The outcomes will still be in development, and I think you'll see them grow in complexity as the plan evolves and as the working groups evolve. But yes, that's kind of the next few quarters in front of us.
Great. Thank you for that. I don't see any other hands. Thank you for the report. Important work, and we'll look forward to seeing more on that. Okay, I think we move on to 11.3, and it is the 2024 budget update. Kirsten Hand's going to join us, and I don't know, Chief, if you want to start with this. Is Kirsten with us? I don't see her. Is she there? Anyways, Chief, over to you, and we'll get the update.
Thanks very much. So I will be pitching it to our Director of Finance and Assets, Kirsten Hand, just to explain the minor modification in terms of the budget estimate position that will be before Regional Council today. So over to you, Kirsten. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. This report is just a short report, just outlining the one change that occurred since our November board meeting. The total operating budget estimate did not change, so it continues to be at 228 million. The increase year over year also did not change, so that continues to be at a 14 million or 6.71% year over year impact. What did change is the region finalized the assessment growth for next year, and that increased from 2 to 2.18%. So as a result of that, the tax impact on the police portion of the property tax bill is now 4.4%. So that did increase slightly. Thank you.
Okay, and just so that there's no misunderstanding by anybody, and I'll just leave it at that. This is purely administrative. We have not changed our budget. The budget request is the same. The only change was the calculation that the region put in, the regional staff, which is the assessment growth, and that is their number, and it changes only the percentage of tax, the taxpayer portion of the that the police budget is of the regional budget. But it has nothing to do, we have not changed our budget. It's the exact same budget that we put forward, whatever it was, a month ago on November the 15th. Just to bring absolute clarity. Have I got that about right?
Yes, the only change is the updated information on the assessment growth. Correct.
From the region. Okay. Any other questions or comments from council, from the board? Don't see any. Thank you for the report then, Kirsten. Anything else? There's nothing else to add from that, Chief or Kirsten? All good? Okay. I think thank you for that. Moving on, I think we're at 12.0, monthly Chief of Police report. Nothing to report, Chief? Been a quiet month. Oh, no, maybe you've got something to say here. Oh, he's got a presentation.
I'll be brief, but very pleased to provide a monthly report of just some activity happening across the region and the work of our members. So over the past month, we've continued with our community outreach, with our recruiting efforts in both a virtual space and also online. Our members from HR, recruiting, and members all across the service have continued to engage on a number of initiatives supporting our recruitment efforts for sworn and also civilian opportunities. So we've had some online virtual sessions. We continue to engage people at different points of their career aspiration pursuits to help them understand the process of joining WRPS for fulfilling and meaningful career. So members of the public will continue to see some new corporate communications, marketing efforts, and abilities to join us in those career pursuits. Moving to some operational items. Last Friday, Deputy Davis and team from Investigative Services held a press conference related to our efforts for the break and enter and vehicle theft team project that has found a total of $3.1 million of vehicles recovered over a multi-month project that has brought 45 stolen vehicles to be recovered and the arrest of 8 individuals, a total of 92 charges. This is one of many projects focused on organized crime efforts. Vehicle theft is an issue across this region, across Ontario, and across Canada. So we will continue to focus our investigative efforts in coordination with other public safety partners across the province and across the nation to combat vehicle theft and organized crime. Also, just focusing on interesting investigation related to the fraudulent use of credit cards and fraudulent purchasing. So our investigative and frontline response team intervened with a store in Cambridge along the 401 corridor. Ultimately, we arrested 2 individuals from outside of our region for the unauthorized purchasing of several firearms. And this just is one example of the type of activity that is occurring on a region on a regular basis in terms of fraudulent activity, but also the concerning acquisition of firearms and weapons that our members are facing. Looking at another dynamic example of the work that our frontline members are doing, the direct action response team located a stolen vehicle in the Lancaster Street and Union Street area And this was to be determined to be used by someone engaged in human or drug trafficking behavior. And so ultimately we made, after a dynamic arrest, the arrest of an individual who was in possession of a knife, a firearm, but also drug trafficking paraphernalia. And a 42-year-old male was charged with 13 drug and weapon-related offenses. Moving also to just some concerning violent offenses in our region, we've continued to see a number of robberies occurred at stores located in the mall. So the most recent was on November 25th. Officers responded to a jewelry store robbery where there was 3 individuals armed with a firearm and 2 axes. And our robberies team will continue to work on this case. We're seeking any input from the public on the individuals involved in this incident, and our efforts to combat robberies across the region of Waterloo is continuing. Another related type of incident of violent crime is a recent shooting that occurred over the weekend in the area of Weber Street and Kinsley Avenue in the city of Kitchener. Tragically, a 24-year-old female sustained a non-life-threatening gunshot injury, and we're continuing to see our efforts of the investigative teams involved continuing, and we're looking for any input from the public to police directly or through Crime Stoppers to solve this shooting incident. Changing gears, our road safety efforts are on pace this year at some record levels, where we're continuing to focus on the Fatal 4 offenses. And in this time of year, especially with the Festive Ride campaign, our commitment to enforcement related to impaired driving and interactions with the public for enforcement and education will continue. And as an example of the incredible efforts of our traffic services unit and also frontline efforts, we saw one incident over the past weekend on December 9th, where there was within 1 hour period, 3 separate arrests related to impaired driving within a 1 hour period. And it just goes to show that our efforts for impaired driving to alcohol and drug related driving behavior are well warranted, because there's still a lot of it on our roadways. Switching gears to some community-oriented engagements, we've been happy to support the Food Bank of Waterloo Region and their efforts to raise funds and also as much food for their local drives. So that work will continue over the course of this month and beyond. But we're very happy to participate in a fund engagement to raise awareness, but also some food and funds through the local food bank recently. And our investigative and frontline teams during the next week will be engaged in food drives as well. We've also continued with our Stuff a Cruiser campaign. And so this is an annual event supporting the Knights of Columbus drive for the collection of toys for those in need. And so we've been out at shopping centers across the region of Waterloo last week and throughout this week at Walmart locations, Canadian Tire locations. And our kickoff was at Raffi Jewelers in Cambridge on December 2nd. And we've just been so heartened to see the outpouring of support and generosity from members of this community who have come to know this as part of our annual commitment to supporting our community. And our auxiliary officers have been out in teams supporting this effort, and it's just been really amazing to see. And then lastly, just a snapshot of those community events that we're engaged with on a daily, weekly basis. Some examples displayed on the screen are continued partnerships with the Special Olympics through our partnership with the Kitchener Rangers at the puck drop, and also some basketball sporting events, and also just a snapshot of our commitment to Women's Crisis Services and some of their efforts. These are just some of the many involvements that our members are committed to on a regular basis. So in ending, just like to thank members of our service, all of our members who are committed to public safety efforts on an ongoing basis, and also those community members to continue to support and work with us to combat all the issues that we're facing as a growing, busy community. Wishing everybody a happy and safe holiday season, and looking forward to joining you again in 2024. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Chief. Any questions or comments from the board? I'll maybe start. I understand that the chief is in desperate need of some basketball coaching and since I do that, I'm prepared to offer that up. But following along on the basketball theme, just in return in respect to recruitment, I think it's fair to say this board asks you and you report repeatedly in every meeting around, because we're putting a full court press on actually recruiting the officers that we need. We know that there's a critical need to enhance the number of sworn officers, not only because of calls for service increasing, the growth in the community, the complexity of increasing complexity of the issues that are faced, but also for the health and well-being of the existing current members of Waterloo Region Police Service. So maybe a bit more granular of the types of things we're doing, because we're going right across the board in terms of recruiting in different organizations and different parts of the community, because this is a priority for the board. It's one that we put forward in the budget, and a demonstrated need for more officers. So maybe give a bit more some more granularity of the things that we're doing and the success that we're starting to see.
Thanks very much. So we have over the past year committed to a total uniform recruitment strategy where we've overhauled and done a profound analysis on all of our process related pieces to ensure we're competitive, efficient, and timely with our processing of recruits. So that work has been ongoing. I'm very proud of that. In terms of the recruitment and mentoring and outreach piece, we devoted considerable resources to ensure that we are reaching every available opportunity to meet and engage with people. And what we're finding, much like many services across the province, is people intrigued and interested in policing are still unfamiliar with the process involved on actually becoming qualified and capable of being career ready and joining us. So we're trying to find our efforts further down the road in terms of reaching people earlier in life to ensure that those pathways are clear to not only a sworn but also civilian professional pathway into WRPS and public safety at large. So this is a multi-year effort where we need to ensure that it's not just when people are ready to start and choose their career, that they're making those commitments and those investments into themselves earlier in life. And so that's a multi-year strategy that will play out and pay dividends in the years to come. And then also the third prong of our uniform recruitment strategy has to do with our marketing and communications outreach. And we know that we are in a very competitive space within the Greater Toronto Area over the best and brightest applicants. So to ensure that we are reaching people across all available platforms, social media, traditional media, and also our ongoing proactive engagement through our social media platforms is that multi-pronged strategy. And we're starting to see some very promising outputs in terms of how we're reaching people and the level of engagement that we're having. People are inquiring about their pathways into policing. So the community will continue to see our members out in the community where every engagement opportunity is a recruitment opportunity for us. And we want to ensure that our not only members are mobilized, but our community is mobilized to consider a meaningful career in public safety.
Okay, thank you for that. It's important information. I know we get it every month, but I always never miss an opportunity to articulate how hard we're working in that because of the importance of it. Okay, I don't see any other hands. Any other questions from the board? I don't see any. So moving on, any new business? I don't see any. Future agenda items? No, don't have any. Information items? Nothing. Just a notice to the media just before we wrap up. Once we're adjourned, members of the media are welcome to log into Zoom with the login credentials or the details that were provided. Chief Crowell and I will be available to take any questions from the media. Can I have a motion to adjourn? I see Sandy and Karen Quigley Hobbs. All those in favor? None opposed. Thanks so much. And